Everyone, welcome to the Betsperts Golf RBC Heritage DFS Preview. I am Ryan Noonan, excited to be joined by all things golf data here at BetspertsGolf.com. You know him on Twitter at PGA Splits 101. It is Ron Klos. Ron, what's going on, buddy?
Doing well. Great to be here. Great Masters, a little anticlimactic with Scotty Scheffler doing it again. I think most people would have said, him and Cam Smith were playing the best in the world kind of going in. And of course, with Scotty being the highest price guy, I didn't play him at all. And so, not the best week, but still an amazing tournament to watch.
I think it was one of those weeks where we're in it so deep, right? We're like, if we're just kind of like casual golf fans and you're just watching golf a little bit over the last couple of weeks leading up to it, you're like, why wouldn't I play Cam Smith and Scotty Scheffler? And I should bet them to win because it's what they're doing of late. And I think a lot of us found unique ways to not do that. And sometimes that is frustrating when it happens and you're like, this makes so much sense. I don't know that they're the two best players in the world, but they certainly are the two hottest at the time. So also joining us to break down the RBC Heritage at Harbor Town is our buddy from DraftKings DK Live, the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. It is Geoff Ulrich. Jeff, what's going on, bud?
Oh yeah, not too much. I mean, it felt like you were describing my, main lineup there for last week with the getting fancy and getting off the two hottest players in the world, just talking yourself out of it. That's what we do at majors, though. We try and find reasons not to play the best players. And sometimes, unfortunately, that happens. So
yeah. Talked about it on the betting show today with Feinberg and Andy. We were talking about how we're still taking shots in the same range. I wasn't even avoiding that range from a betting standpoint. I fired on DJ at 16, and we were like, oh yeah, just because you didn't have I knew too many people that had 25s and 30s on Scotty from months ago. And it's well, yeah, can I really take an 18? It's well, yeah, it's still an 18. And it's, I don't know, I feel like it's something, especially betting so much NFL over the years that I don't know, I'm so wired to want the best of the number. When I feel that a number's been pounded down like that for Scotty in particular, you're well, I can't really jump in that late. And it's here we are.
I mean, look, there's a bit of a psychological factor with it too, with Scheffler. I mean, I know I was talking on shows the week before. It's been such a meteoric rise. You've got to just your brain is just this is ending at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's Scotty Scheffler. It's not Tiger Woods, right? So, but these young guys, man, when they get a bunch of confidence, they can stay hot for a while. So just got to remember that too.
Form is fickle. We don't really know when it starts and we don't know when it stops, and you want to ride it. And we thought we were on the right side of not riding it last week. And here we are talking about the RBC Heritage with less money in our pockets than we would have liked to. So look, before we want to jump into this, I want to remind you to, if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe. Betsperts YouTube page here. We also, like I mentioned earlier, on Tuesdays have our betting show in the morning, DFS in the afternoon, available also in podcast form on Spotify and Apple. Again, head over to BetspertsGolf.com. Lots of free content over there, along with massively discounted subscription because we continue to kind of slow roll tools. We have, simulations, predictions, DFS optimizer over there, lots of cool stuff, research pages, player pages, all that stuff is coming very slowly over the next couple of months. Turns out it's very hard to build a golf site from scratch, and those things take a little bit of time. And as we ramp up, we are wanting to offer you a discount to get your feet wet to come over and hang out with us. So Ron, before we jump into players' strategy on the DFS side this week, talk to us a little bit about Harbor Town, what to expect, maybe the player archetype that we need to be looking at this week. And I know it's a fun one. There's a lot of interesting golfers here in a pretty loaded field, 25 of the world's top 50, and I think 11 of the top 20. So again, a lot of guys making the short trip from Augusta here.
Yeah, so par 71, Pete Dye course, just under 7,200 yards. So not an easy course. If you take out the 2020 event when the strength of field was so high and it was played in June, when Webb Simpson, I think, won at 22 under, the last 5 events here have actually averaged over par. So you have these tight tree-lined fairways, numerous dog legs, sharp angles, a very stark contrast for players coming over from Augusta National. Just with Augusta being so wide open, here it's more a course where finesse and shot making are prioritized over length and power. Distance is pretty much irrelevant here. I think the average driving distance is right around 270 yards. It's a course that should level the playing field, kind of mitigate any distinct advantage that bomber type players have. And you kind of have evidence of this with some of the long shot winners over the years who are more shorter positional hitters. Satoshi Kodaira, CT Pan, even Wesley Bryan. So the tight angles, the constantly threatening tree lines that kind of get in the way are going to force players to use less than driver off the tee. Even driving accuracy is unique here. Going through the player quotes, they often comment on their ball will be sitting in the fairway, yet there'll be tree branches still hanging down in front of them. So, last year's winner, Stuart Sink, he was actually 57th in the field in fairways gained. Then you have the rough. So it's ryegrass. It's only 3/4 of an inch high, which is one of the shortest on tour. So that's not really a threat at all. And it's not really about finding the fairway as much as it is hitting your tee shot to the proper spot on the fairway, which you're going to give yourself the best angle to the green on approach. And simply put, it's basically target to target golf. You have the second smallest greens on tour. So it's going to kind of come down to approach and then scrambling, because players are going to miss greens here. 47% of approaches are between 150 to 200 yards. And tiny greens like this kind of level the playing field for poor putters, I think. You have 3-putt percentage is the lowest on tour. And then on the flip side, 1-putt percentage is one of the highest on tour. So you have, again, Poa Trivialis greens, not Bermuda. They are overseeded still this time of year. So just some interesting things, a very unique course for this week.
Geoff, I want to play a ton of guys this week, so I need you to help me parse through it. And let's start mostly just from a game theory standpoint, because there's a lot of narratives this week too, and you find this often in weeks after a major, right? Where it's what's the motivation level? We have DJ, for instance. It's like, well, it's an RBC event, he has to be here. Like, how motivated is he? And we obviously Cam Smith coming off of some great weekend smoke at Augusta. When you look at JT, Morikawa, Cam, Cantley. There's a lot of big guys here at the top. So that is the 10K range. Do you buy into any of that? Do you think, because I feel like the popular build this week is going to be balance builds where you can kind of maybe get into one of these guys, but I think you can really kind of skip the whole tier and really avoid some of the really low stuff. Do you necessarily buy into the narrative, or is there anyone, I guess, in the 10K that jumps out to you that you think is still a priority regardless of what happened to them at Augusta?
Yeah, I mean, like every week, I mean, there's going to be narratives flocking in. I think more than anything, like this week, you may see more of that as well. Either you've got players coming off strong Augusta finishes, Morikawa, Thomas, Lowry. Those guys are just going to get a benefit right off the bat, and you'll have players who, you've got Tyrrell Hatton, who's like legitimately everyone hates on social media again because he said something bad about Augusta. So, you're just going to get like severely tilted ownership just from comments like that and from guys finishing well on Sunday. So lots of things to consider in a week after the major. Actually, it is kind of sometimes ends up being one of the more interesting weeks. But just looking at the salaries too, just how they're laid out. I mean, with Morikawa down there at 10-2, you've got to think that, and from the early projections that I've seen, like he is probably going to be the most popular play there. And with Collin Morikawa doing what he did on Sunday, everyone saw the bunker hole out just like JT, but he's $900 cheaper. And what's the narrative here? We just mentioned it. It's point-to-point golf. It's strong iron play. Everyone knows Collin Morikawa is also like one of the best iron players in the world, but Justin Thomas is a really good iron player too. So I think there's a lot of different ways you can get different this week. That's the nice thing. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of different players you want to play. It's the same for me. And you're not going to have to work too hard to kind of just get off like the straight chalk this week. So that's nice because I personally like just paying up for Justin Thomas here.
Okay.
He's got a sharp short game. We've seen him come very close. He's gotten wins at other Pete Dye tracks that require a little bit of veteran finesse, like TPC Sawgrass. So I think he actually has the edge over Morikawa this week. And, if he's going to come in at lower ownership, even if he's just like 5, we're getting 5-8% or something. I like starting there. I really do, because again, we bring it back to this. You can play a lot of different types of players at Hilton Head because it brings in all these different styles. You don't need to bomb it off the tee. You don't even need to gain strokes off the tee. So, the guys in the 7K range, there's a ton of playable players. I like starting with JT and, Cam Smith, Dustin Johnson. There's good arguments against them. Let's put it that way. Dustin, not really set up well for the course. Never been known as a course manager. Cam Smith was hooking the ball into the trees like every tee shot. on Master Sunday, and just feels like a player who's like ready to cool off a little bit. I don't know. So he's also priced $600 more than Morikawa. So I'm looking at JT and Morikawa as being popular, but if we're going to get a little bit of lesser ownership on JT, and I think you will, I like going there.
Rob, when I'm looking to differentiate at times, I try to basically create a player pool. And then from there, I'd rather leave salary than make a pivot to a guy that is not in my player pool that's lesser owned, if that makes sense. Easier to do at the bottom tier when I really can like pick the guys. At the top of the board, to Jeff's point, there's such little things here and there that can like differentiate between a guy. They're all top tier guys. There's a reason that they're all up here. Is there a guy here that you think is going to be lower owned significantly than everyone else? Because I think JT is probably maybe that guy because of where he's in the pricing tier. Morikawa, I agree, would be the kind of the bell of the ball in the 10K range. Is there a guy that you like in this range? Is this a range you're looking to dabble in? Kind of give me your thoughts in the top tier.
Well, just ownership really quick. Like, I know this is still early, but I mean, I do have JT around 18%. Morikawa's right up there around 20. I mean, right now it looks like Cam Smith, DJ, and Cantley are kind of the lower three. So that's interesting. And again, have to watch that as we get closer. It's hard with these top five because, you know, it's just hard to make an argument against any of them. And this kind of combined with, this is kind of one of the toughest events to predict. You know, you have the week after a major effect. And I know you don't have the greatest of sample size, but, you know, JT, for example, has played in over the past 4 years. He's played in 9 events the week following a major, and he only has 1 top 10. So, you know, just little things like that kind of get into your mind. And, you know, he's the highest priced, but, you know, he's so consistently good. And we know he wants to win again. He hasn't won in forever. So, you know, that motivation's there. So there's just so many things to weigh here. The top 18 price players on the board were all at Augusta. So, you know, a lot of guys are dealing with kind of the same thing. And then you have this group of, you know, 20 or so guys below the top 5 that could easily win. And so, like, when I'm looking at my builds this week, you know, in that top group, I do like Colin Morikawa the best. Just something that kind of shocked me. We all know about his pinpoint accuracy, how good he is on approach. Obviously, with the tiniest greens or the second smallest greens on tour this week, you know, that's going to be an advantage for him. But did you know that he is actually 31st in strokes gained putting for the entire tour right now? Like, he's ahead of Sam Burns. He's ahead of Webb Simpson, Sung Jae, Brian Harmon. Like, so, you know, don't want to look into that too much, but, you know, I think that's some clear evidence that, you know, if he's getting some steam going on the greens here as well, you know, so he's kind of my favorite guy up here. I do like Cam Smith as well. You know, he shot an opening round 62 here last year. And yes, the off the tee, you know, just kind of how he's spraying it, that does scare you a little bit. But, you know, perhaps he's motivated to kind of come off that collapse or whatever you want to call it on the 12th hole from Sunday. So, you know, it's just tough because you're trying to weigh all these factors. But I like Morikawa the best, and then followed by Cam Smith.
No one wants to play Cantley. No one's going to play Cantley, I would imagine. The form's not good. The irons aren't good. The putting is not great. He, you know, coming off of the Masters last year, came here and missed the cut. So, like, there aren't a lot of things that point you to Cantley, especially when you, like, just jump down to the upper 9s where you're looking at, you know, Shane Lowry is hot as really anyone in the world. When you look at, like, what he's done in normal stroke play events over the last, like, 2 months, he just basically, outside of the Dubai, I think, like, T24, he's been in the top 10, absolutely striking it, can scramble his face off at times too. And then right below that, Cory Connors. Like, is there any fatigue for Connors? He, you know, went long on the weekend in Austin with a match play and then rolls right into Valero, shows up, doesn't play great, but plays really well on Sunday heading into the Masters and plays great there. This is a place that fits when we're talking about target golf, ball striking, shot making, something that's maybe going to level the field for putters. Although, you know, it's been about a year of Cory Connors being field average or so on putting. Like, we're kind of past. I think he's kind of graduated from team no putt. But again, Berger's in there, Matthew Fitzpatrick. I think this is going to be a very, very popular place for people to start. Jeff, is there a guy in that mix that jumps out? Do you think any of them are must plays, good chalk, or is there anyone in there that maybe is going to be lighter owned that we maybe should take a look at?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it will be popular to start there or start with Morikawa and then add one of those dudes. So, and you can do that this week. I mean, I think you can even go deeper, like if you wanted to. I mean, that's just the kind of event we see. Like a lot of these 8K guys, they come through with this event, right? Like 30 to 1, 50 to 1 winners. So, a lot of people will be looking to start here. I think Matthew Fitzpatrick is going to be a popular play. I'm not necessarily inclined to take him, but I think at 9,500, just with his rate of hitting top tens, he'll grab a lot of ownership just from the perspective of he's 9,500 versus the other two. But I'm kind of expecting spread ownership. Like at the start of the week, I think if you're ranking them, Lowry will probably get the most chalk. He's coming off the big finish, the T3. Like you said, everyone knows at this point Shane Lowry's really good. His approach game is clicking. And I do kind of like him from the perspective of, it's a veteran course. And I think if I was taking someone, I'd probably rank him first as well. But I do think he'll end up with the highest ownership. So I think if you're pivoting in this range, it's probably Berger. He shot 80 on Sunday. It's not the biggest deal. Like we've seen players miss the cut at Augusta. Like Brandon Gray shot like 76, 76 and then came and won. Berger dominates these short courses. Like this is his wheelhouse. He's changed his driver to just hit a ton of fairways. He doesn't pound it. He's not like the, grip it and rip it guy anymore. And his irons are right up there with the best in the world. So I think Berger is the pivot. And I think Lowry, Connors, Fitzpatrick, they'll probably be pretty spread ownership. Like if you like one of them, and like I said, I kind of like Lowry over the other two, just play them because I don't think that any of these guys will necessarily get to uber crazy chalk status. But Berger to me is the guy who's most likely just with the most negative sentiment right now.
That's a good point. I believe it was Data Golf that did an article on like his accuracy off the tee, not even accuracy, about how we think he like eliminated one side of the fairway as far as like his misses go.
I think he went to a higher spin rate or something. I can't remember. I mean, I'm not into the technical side as much as some other people, but it was something like that where it just took, like you said, he took one miss out and he just hits a ton of fairways now.
That's huge. I mean, to Ron's point, like, and you look at Stu Sink, I think Stu Sink barely hit over 50% of his fairways here last year. So like, this is a accuracy course in a sense, but like, it's not always necessarily, it's more about shot making. The rough is not super penal.
Like everybody misses greens and fairways here because everything's so tight, right? Yes. So it's like, it almost doesn't matter how accurate you are. It's just placement. It's just, and then being able to hit the approach, obviously. So
yeah, if you can miss the fairway still on the right side where you have, to Ron's point, not be in the fairway and have hanging branches and be in a spot where like, I had the fairway, but I had the wrong side of the fairway. I think that really helps Berger here quite a bit. So again, short game too, another guy that can scramble with the best of him when he misses these small greens. So yeah, corollary courses with like not a long history. Hasn't played much actually at the Wyndham, but Pebble, places where we know short courses where it can be shot making and more than just grip it and rip it. Ron, can we start with multiple guys here? Is there anyone else a little bit lower into the 8Ks? A guy that catches my attention here is Joaquin Neiman, another guy that just the ball striking has been terrific. Scrambling game has been nice. Another guy, to Jeff's point, maybe he melted a little bit as the lights got a little brighter on Sunday. I don't think that's why he melted, but that's kind of what happened. That could be into people's mind. And then Russell Henley is just a guy that you're running any sort of projection model or anything around ball striking. We're going to have positive numbers on Russell Henley because he's just kind of fabulous at that. Yeah,
this 9K range is loaded to me. And what makes it really nice is when you get down into kind of the mid to upper 7K, even the low 7K, like there's so much value down there that you could play 3, even maybe 4 guys, because there's a few, when we start getting into Wesley Bryan at 6,100, you could get pretty creative in here, even go 4 9K guys. So, but like Geoff said, Lowry, Connors, and Fitzpatrick are all coming in between 17 and 19%. And so, again, to the point that both of you said, Daniel Berger, I love him this week. Just his game and his style fit here perfectly. Just tee to green. Harbor Town does have some wind. Looks like Thursday and Friday we're going to have some gusts up to 20 miles an hour. So, with his lower ball flight into the wind, like you said, he's a short game wizard. He's finished 3rd and 13th here the last 2 years. And one of the quotes he made, the interviewer asked him, about coming here and, it's laid back, it's on the beach. And he flat out said, I'm not coming here for vacation. I'm coming here for business. I'm coming here to win. So, just that mentality that he has, I love him here at 9.6. And then I think Sung JM is another guy we can go to here. Just coming off that 8th place at the Masters, he has 8 top 20s this year. It seems, 12% I have him right now. Guys are kind of being taken for granted almost. And, I just don't think you can ever take Sungjae for granted. When you even go long-term for him over the last 50 rounds, he's basically top 5 on the field in every category except for approach. So, I really like him here as well. And dipping down further, Russell Henley, we haven't even talked about Webb Simpson yet. We'll get to him, but you could get pretty creative up here in this area.
Yeah, it is a loaded field. Really, outside of, I'm comfortable crossing off Spieth. He's not in my player pool. I think if he can't go out of form to Augusta and perform well, which is just another guy, that's just something he's done even when he had that lull for a couple of years. Just not really dialed in right now. Neiman is another guy, like I said, with that wind that fits well with a low ball flight, which might be a nice kind of skill stacking essentially with Berger, right? Where you kind of think of really good ball strikers, good scramblers. And if the wind gets up, we're kind of, correlating skills more so than, we don't think of stacking so much in DFS, but I think, skill stacking, something like that, I think makes.
You could start with Neiman, Berger, and Henley and just go, team ball strike, like you said. Yeah, absolutely.
Make a pretty good lineup starting there. Let's get into that Webb tier, Ron, when we get into the upper 8s. Obviously this is a course where Webb has won. Again, it was in June. It was the COVID year, so it was a little bit out, but this is one of those historic places when we think of Webb Simpson with the elite ball striking, a place where, especially in the past, where he wasn't going to be lost in the field with bombers, things like that. Playing a little bit better. Again, made the cut at the Masters, which is good to see. Horschel is a guy that no one really loves to click on because he's not super fun to watch play golf or cheer for. And sometimes that drives ownership down. Hatton could maybe be in the same way. Again, he, had the balls to say something bad about our prestigious Masters tournaments. Maybe he calls it the U.S. Masters. That's a thing for him. Maybe he's pretty pissed off about everything that happened there. But he's going to be dealing with a new caddy this week as well. I think his caddy is out with, if you think that there's anything to that, his caddy's dealing with a knee injury. HV3 is another guy that just the form is amazing and his decent history here. Talk to me about the 8s. Left off at Siwoo, another guy that just P die tracks. We always click on Siwoo. So talk to me about the 8s, Ron.
Yeah, I'm kind of going with the two-headed monster here of Webb and Billy Horschel. Nobody plays Harbour Town better than Webb does. Just 8. 2020 when he won here, he's got a 2nd place here. He looks healthy again. I know he struggled kind of coming down the stretch at Augusta, but his driving distance compared to when he had the injury, his driving distance was really down. He's got that back up again to, the mid 290s. So, it looks like he's kind of past those injury concerns. And so, I just think at 8.8, even on the outright market, got him at 35 to 1. I just think that's an amazing value for him. So he's my one guy here. And then, Billy Horschel, another guy who, when you look at, courses that are similar to Harbour Town, Colonial, you get into, Sawgrass, Sedgefield, Horschel ranks 4th, on those similar courses. And so just kind of this, positional golf. I think he thrives in, both him and Webb are both in my top 5 for putting on the Poa Trivialis that they're going to see this week. And, Billy, love him or hate him, like you said, he's another guy who seems like he's, almost destined to win here really soon just by his recent form. So, that's kind of where it starts for me with those two. And, I do like Kisner going down to 8-1. Obviously this is another course that's made for him, South Carolina native. But my focus is going to be on Webb and Billy up here.
What do you like here in the 8s, Geoff?
I kind of like everyone. That's the problem.
I know.
I feel like you can just take 5 guys in this range and you can make a cashable, at the very least, a cashable lineup, right? I agree. I 8-8 Webb Simpson at the RBC Heritage. I'll take that. He looks like he's getting a little bit healthy. I like the fact he made the cut at a tough playing Augusta. It's a longer course, not really greatest setup for Webb. And he's had his issues there. So just grinding out a decent cut there, I think is a good sign. And yeah, I might even play Billy Horschel this week too. I'm not exactly the biggest fan, but this is the kind of the track where if his putter gets hot, he'll literally just gain you 9 strokes putting. And his approach game has been really good in spurts. So Both those guys I can definitely get behind, like a stack there. And where you go from there, is kind of up to you. I mean, I think Hatton and Siwoo are both, they are what they are. Like, they're volatile. I mean, Siwoo could come in here and blow the doors off. Absolutely. But it is the week after a major. He played Valero too. There could be letdowns. So, who do I prefer more of those two? Probably Siwoo, just because I don't really know where Hatton's head is at, although we never know that. But I would lean Siwoo. He's made 10 cuts in a row. The around the green game's been gaining him strokes. And I mean, he's just a player who, like, this is kind of what he did before he broke through at the American Express last year. He just made a bunch of cuts in a row. He was playing good. It wasn't doing anything like one thing great, but it just all clicked. And that's just kind of the player he is. Like, he's just got that top end gear that when it hits, he'll come in and just crush a course like this. So I think Siwoo is very playable. For GPPs, again, you should get like sub 10% ownership on him, I think, just because this range is so stock full.
Yeah.
And, but there's so many. I mean, like, we haven't talked about like Chris Kirk, Alex Noren. Noren's just like making cuts. I mean, so, and his approach game a couple events ago was like off the charts, at the Honda. So, man, I mean, like, this is the range where, it's really close between all these guys. It really is. The safe play, I think, is Webb Simpson. You can include Billy Horschel in there if you want, but when it gets down to Noren, Siwoo, I'm more inclined to take chances with guys like a Noren or Siwoo if I'm going to get like 5% ownership. I think Kisner is fine too, and he's probably a little bit safer. But this is where I like to take shots with guys, and Siwoo may leave us disappointed or something, but in terms of pure upside, I do think he's like the best kind of non-web play in the range.
I think you have no problem building a lineup here. Like, this is almost like the extreme balance lineup where you're like, you avoid maybe the high popular upper 8s or upper 9s that we were talking about, right? You're not even in the top tier. You can really just kind of stay around here because there's really no one that I think you can make a case for. Fleetwood seems to be turning a corner. You mentioned Noren, like the ball striking until, again, he's been off the radar, didn't go to Valero, didn't play the Masters. But before that, T18 at match play, like advanced in his group, top 10 or top 12 at Valspar, played really well at the Players, top 5 at the Honda. It's all been approach. Like, he's been terrific with the approach. Chris Kirk is a guy that we love this time of year. We love Chris Kirk in spots where it's not bombers, where it's just ball striking. He can scramble with the best of them. If the putters even kind of field average, Chris Kirk is in the mix. And I think these guys are like all going to carry pretty minimal, or at least not like problematic ownership. And it's very easy. Like, people are going to want to play Kisner, I feel like, with the way he showed at Augusta, a place that, had good form, place that he doesn't typically play really well. And then he went out and did, and now he's down here at 8-1. I think Kisner carries probably a significant amount of ownership. But again, like, if no one's playing Varner, no one's playing Noren, no one's playing Chris Kirk, I absolutely love being able to click those guys. And they're naturally part of my player pool. So I'm having a hard time like whittling it down this week because there are so many guys that I think are really good plays. So we have a few more of them here in the upper 7s. Mavi Neely is a guy that we like on short courses. Again, we know the Pebble Beach history. I think it's been strange to me. Neely's actually played pretty well at longer courses against tough fields as well. I think he's just maybe good at golf. Imagine that. But he is 7-9 here. Again, really decent form. Kevin Na, terrific history. Again, didn't play great on the weekend, but made the cut at the Masters, has won at Sedgefield. We like him at small greens, short tracks. Matt Kuchar's history here is hard to argue with and actually has some fairly decent form. As a guy that I typically don't consider much nowadays. They, for some reason, left Adam Hadwin, who has 3 straight top 10s and is striking it like no one else in the game, basically, at 7-6. I don't know how he doesn't carry a ton of ownership, Geoff, but talk to me about this upper mid tier of the 7s.
Yeah, this 7 range is kind of why I don't mind starting with JT this week, because it almost forces you to bypass some of those guys in the 8K range, which, again, it's either a good thing or a bad thing, but at the same time, you'll be on one side. Like, you won't be overweight on the 8K range, and you'll obviously be creating a little bit more unique lineup, I think, than most people who will probably be looking to go balance this week and load up on the 8K guys. So it kind of forces your hand. And I really we're looking down here at Kevin Na, Brian Harmon, Matt Kuchar versus Webb, Horschel, Kisner in the 8K range. I mean, I just don't think there's like skill set wise, we're talking about the same players, right? Guys who can get hot with their approach or get hot with their putter and kind of save you in different ways. So that's just, what this course demands. I mean, looking at it, you're right. Like Hadwin, it's kind of unfortunate. He leads the tour in proximity over the last 24 rounds. He's playing great. He dominates speed die tracks. He's 7,600. Like you're going to have to make a stance. I think he's the definition of good chalk. Like Adam Hadwin, we've seen when he gets in these zones, he's a really, really good golfer. And I don't really mind it, but the JT Adam Hadwin build is going to be popular this week too. So it's something you've got to consider. Are you just going to, eat that and then try and go like super stars and scrubs by adding in like another 10K guy with them, or what are you going to do? Right. So there are pivots in this range though. Like I think Streelman is actually like playing under the radar well.
Yep.
I don't really love Kevin Streelman because his short game kind of stinks, but when he does like get in these zones, he can dominate these short tracks too. So there's pivot plays down here. I do like Hadwin. I think that Matt Kuchar is like, kind of just like Webb Simpson light this week. He's probably not going to win. He's probably not going to get you like maybe like a top 5, but like a top 20 for 7,800. Yeah, you can pencil that in. For upside, I'd probably rather play Na or Harmon though.
Yeah. Ron, there are almost double the amount of approach shots from 175 to 200 yards here than your standard tour events. Just to force layups, the way that this course lays out, it forces you into that kind of distance often. Number one in the field this season is $7,600 Tom Hoagy. Pebble Beach, small greens, small course, continues to ball strike it. We know Hoagy is, typically not going to run hot with the putter. But again, if I'm having to play positional golf, I'm having to play ball striking. Tom Hoagy is a pretty nice pivot naturally to Adam Hadwin. I agree with Geoff. I am fine eating the Hadwin chalk. I think he's just a terrific play, and it's a misprice. Like I think there are some times where you just need to take advantage of the misprice and click the name. I get why someone from a game theory standpoint would just automatically cross him off, and I think you can do that with the Hoagies and the Mitos that are right around there. But what else do you like here in this range?
Yeah, kind of like how Geoff was about the 8K range. Like I'm like a kid in a candy store with this range. Like even if you go to Jason Kokrak up at 7.9, I mean he's had his recent struggles a little bit, but I mean that feels like excellent value on Kokrak. He 14th at Augusta, and may not be the best course fit for him. But again, I think his ability to kind of gear down with the driver a little bit, which he has some recent struggles with. So he's a guy. Going back to your Tom Hoagy thing. So, yeah, he's first, like you said, overall in that range. Just his elite iron precision is just going to be so perfect for this course. I really like Kevin Na. And we talked earlier about, how tired he's going to be, just kind of how he battled to the end there. And, the mental struggles he had there with putting on I can't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday, but when he just putted horribly. But
he's going to win at all costs, though. He wins at all costs.
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
matter. He doesn't get tired.
And so, just on these shorter courses, he's top 10 in the field on courses less than 7,200 yards. I've got his ownership at only right around 10-11% right now. He's top 5 in course comps, these other shorter positional courses. And so just that course fit's going to fit him really well. Brian Harmon is a guy I really love. The week after a major, and again, sample size here, but 7 events since 2017. His average finish position in those 7 events is 20th. He's averaged 1.5 strokes gained per round. A shorter hitter, if he's the kind of guy, he gets hot with his irons and his putter, he's going to fly to the top of the leaderboard. And so I think just looking at those things, love Brian Harmon. And again, like you said, Hadwin, kind of going with Webb, Webb's probably going to be some chalk too, but him and Hadwin, I think, are just good chalk. I think just how Hadwin's been playing. I love all those guys here. And so that's why I said earlier, you could legitimately play 3 9K guys and then try to get 3 more guys kind of down here in this range. And so that's kind of my favorite build for the week for sure.
We have a guy coming off of a win and then a top 23 at the Masters in his debut, who has been doing it mostly on the back of ball striking. And we have JJ Spawn at 7,300. Geoff, we mentioned form. We don't know when it ends. Can we continue to the JJ Spawn train here? Some other guys that have been ball strikers, Russell Knox, another guy that's been striking it well that can't make a putt. What do you like down here in the lower sevens?
Yeah. I'm almost inclined to just keep trusting Spawn. I like Russell Knox too, but at some point you almost just have to pull the chute and be like, okay, the upside is just somewhat limited. He and I shouldn't say that. He's had top tens. It's just frustrating to watch him gain a million strokes and then finish like T55, right? So, or T33 as he was doing every week for a while. Right. And even at 7,300, it just feels like Spawn is more likely to get you like a top 20 at this point. So, and I think the setup is good for Spawn. His irons and putting has kind of been what's doing it for him anyways. And that's kind of just been his MO anyways, not like a big, driver of the golf ball or anything like that. So, I think the setup is actually quite good for him. I like EVR too. I think is like the kind of sneaky play. Again, it's complete boom or bust, but EVR gained 11 strokes on approach at the Players, like another Sawgrass or another Pete Dye design course. And if he brings that same kind of smoke, he'll probably end up with a top 15 finish. I think that for, you want to take on some risk here and it's not going to cost you much in terms of allocating lineups to him. You have 6 out of 100 EVR lineups or whatever this week, depending on how you're making lineups. You'll be overweight the field. So I like him in that range. Going down further, don't mind Patton Kizzire either. That's a name that I think is ripe for a bounce back. Kind of just feels like he should be fit with those guys in the 7,800 range. His approach game has been very solid. The putter can get hot at any time for him, and he dominates these shorter tracks. So that 73 range, Knox, Spawn, EVR. It's no doubt that the biggest boomer bust is the last one, but I still think upside wise, he might be the best play there as well.
Ron, I can't play Aaron Wise, can I?
You can for sure. You never know what's going to show up this week. So, ball striking,
every week. I don't know. I'm such a sucker. I'm going to be so buried in debt on Aaron Wise. It's going to take a milli maker or like a outright at 180 to 1 for me to ever get square on Aaron Wise. But I'm still in love with the prospects of what he can do. Again, coastal course. I know he cannot putt, but again, he continues to be appealing every time he pops up down here in these tiers where I just think he's better than a lot of guys that are around him. He's not playing better than any of them, but I just think he is better than most of them. So I'll continue to click Aaron Wise. But what do you like here down in the low sevens? I guess that you haven't touched on, but we can get down into the sixes. Because for me, there's so many guys that I like that we've already touched on that I'm going to be pretty light in the sixes. And that's leading me to these balance builds too, where maybe I stay away from the top tier because I just don't want to go kind of dumpster diving. There's just not a lot that jumps out. So sell me on some of these, I guess, 69 and below guys.
Yeah, just really quick. I know we kind of glossed over Streelman a little bit, but it's at 7,500. Just Pete Dye specialist. He's got 10 career top 10s on Pete Dye courses, so that's something I noted there. I guess jumping up just 100 more, just really quick. Cameron Tringali, 7K flat. I know he's had his struggles his last 3 events. And his biggest flaw has been off the tee, at the Players and at Arnold Palmer, he lost 5 strokes off the tee in both of those. And again, we've already talked about, that off the tee game is kind of mitigated here a little bit. You still want to be in the right spots, but a stat I love to use for this is good drive percentage. Basically what that means is, are you able to get your second shot on the green, even if you're in the rough? And so in this field, Tringali over the last 24 rounds, even with his struggles, he still ranks 16th in the field in strokes gained, in good drive percentage. And when you look at his approach numbers, he's actually gained on approach 7 of his last 8 rounds. So, I just think a guy who, at only 2% ownership right now, at that number. So he really sticks out to me. Joel Damon at 6,800, he always seems to play well in these coastal courses where, you don't need to be long. And again, you only have 3 par 5s. That's another one of his weaknesses. He usually doesn't score good on par 5s. And so he's really a great par 4 player from 400 to 450 yards. And I think there's 7 or 8 holes that are from that distance. And so, he finished 6th at Pebble Beach. He won at Corrales last year. So just kind of those coastal courses, I think he does well. And I think that's a misprice on him. Brandon Grace is another one at 6,700. He has professed a strong love for this course. When I read through his quotes, he appreciates the wind here. He likes playing in those conditions. And so he's another one. But kind of in that, if we're going really low, Wesley Bryan, obviously at 6,100 as one here. He actually grew up right in this area. He played this course all the time growing up. So he has a lot of history here. And so he's kind of obviously at 6,100, a guy who, I'll throw in some lineups to fit some higher price guys.
Geoff, is there anyone that's jumping out here below 7K that you think probably deserves more attention than they're getting?
So one name that is kind of interesting, and we've seen players come off the Masters and grab like some big wins. Sink did it last year. I remember when Kevin Chappell came off like a top 10 at the Masters and then grabbed the win at the Valero, back when the Valero was like, I can't remember what happened. It was like after the Masters that year or something. It used to be there in the schedule. Anyways, Harry Higgs at 6,600, T14 last week. I don't know if that's the best major finish of his career, but it's got to be his best Masters finish for sure. He's a player who's been close a couple times. Like, I mean, this is the kind of track where I would almost expect Higgs, who, to maybe pop up. So that's one name that's just kind of, interesting. I think Matthew Neesmith at 6,600. Pretty sure he's a Carolina native.
He got married here. He got married. He got engaged on this course, I should say.
Yeah, I knew there was some. Yeah. I knew it wasn't just he lived in South Carolina. I knew it was like he had like a connection. So there you go. Appreciate that. He's been playing good. I mean, the approach, the proximity, that's the best part of his game, anyways. And the around the green stuff, he can just keep it together, which he has been lately. And we saw that he can pop at the Valspar, which I think is a good sign. So 6,600. I really don't have I got love for him down there too. So Higgs is interesting. I'm probably going to play, I'm going to be looking into a little bit more tonight. I know he's on my list. And we got veterans down here, man. Like Henrik Stenson. I mean, like he actually looked pretty good at the Valero. Like was gaining strokes. He's gained strokes off the tee. I'm semi-interested here. Like, I'm not going to lie. I mean, this is the kind of course where we want to target Stenson at. I mean, it's just, you don't have to do too much off the tee. He'll just be hitting 3-wood, the 3-wood that'll probably get mentioned a million times if he's actually in contention this year. And we know what he can do with the irons when he gets hot. So I think Stenson at 6,500 is also in play. Again, for a deeper dive, if you want to go down even deeper, I mean, Luke Donald has been hitting the ball well, and we can laugh all you want, but you do not have to hit the ball well off the tee here. Like, you just don't. So if he's going to gain you 2-3 strokes on approach, he gets hot with that putter. I mean, don't be shocked if you see Luke Donald pop up again. I mean, T16 at the Valspar, another one of his favorite courses. So yeah. And this one is probably his actual favorite, even though I don't think he's actually ever won here. He's finished second like 3 times. So
he's actually got 7 top 3 finishes here.
Yeah, it's crazy. Sick. Like it's tailor made for a guy like Luke Donald, even now. So this course, I think he's absolutely in play at 6,300 this week.
Yeah, and off the tee is his weakness. Obviously, he's a much shorter hitter, and so again at this course, just a perfect fit. It's crazy to look at his history here. It was like the Luke Donald Open for years, just 2-3, 2-3, 2-2, 2-2. Like, yeah, can never get in.
Yeah, but it's sick, and it wasn't even like that long ago where he was in the final group one Sunday. I think it was like 2 years ago or something. So maybe it was 3 years ago. COVID has like canceled 2 years in my mind. So.
I just don't love this range, Ron. Is there anyone else that we're missing? I think Adam Svensson is a guy that his profile is, again, a good ball striker, approach game, has not been playing great as of late. But again, I'm trying to avoid this lane. You've mentioned Wesley Bryan a few times, 6,100, a guy that is, I think, has some decent history here, and then also profiles as a guy like this would be a course that we would play him at.
Yeah, I mean, Wesley Bryan obviously won here back in 2017. Finished 25th here last year. I mean, hasn't missed a cut here in a long time. I mean, even if you want to look at Hudson Swafford, I mean, he's been in the mix so many times. He's sitting there at 6,500. JT Poston has great history here at 6,600. And even going down, Ben Martin, he's been in the news lately. He had that great finish at Corrales where he, almost won there. Had a pretty decent showing, making the cut at the Valero. And so it looks like he's kind of on the rebound, turned his game back around. And 6,200. Another guy with some great value in that area.
Yeah, it's mostly an area that I'm trying to stay away from. But again, if there's someone that pops to you, if you can, if you're good with a Luke Donald made cut and we get a top 30 from him, you're probably in pretty good position here, shooting at the top of the board. So play around with some different construction, some different groupings to try to see how you like builds, and then wait till ownership comes up. We should have some ownership in our DFS optimizer very soon. So definitely want to check that out. So, all right, Geoff, you're the man. Tell everyone where they can find all your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you guys, tuning in today. And you can find me at the Fantasy Grind on Twitter. DKNation.com is where I do most of my work. PGA cheat sheet out there every week, and always posting stuff on Twitter, posting bets and stuff, which I'll probably have a few up tonight for sure. Luke Donald, unfortunately, will be in them, but it'll be more of like a top 20 thing.
Ron, what do you have coming this week over at Betsperts Golf?
Yeah, just a betting article, DFS, first round leader. Got to get back on track with those. So yeah, that'll be coming out tomorrow. Kind of a model I put together, looking at kind of every data point you can imagine. Just looking at guys' first round leader performance, course history. So I love doing that every week. So yep.
Love it. And don't forget, go over to betspertsgolf.com/newsletter. Newsletter comes out usually on Tuesday evenings. Best way to kind of stay in the loop with all the different offerings that we have, all the different content that we have as well. Again, there's some free content on the site as well. But again, discounted currently on the sub side, just $99.99 for the rest of the year. So for Geoff and Ron, I'm Ryan. We'll see you all very soon.